right, this episode is titled See No Evil. Came out on February 24th, 1993. Directed by Dan Riba, friend and guest of the show. Written by Martin...
Riba? I hardly know her.
Written by Martin Pascal, animation by Spectrum. Featuring Kevin Conroy as Batman and Bruce Wayne, Richard Erdman as Elliot, Danny Goldman as Sam Goodell, Michael Gross as Lloyd Ventrix, Ken Howard as Harkness, Elizabeth Moss as Kimmy, Chuck Olson as Security Guard, Brock Peters as Lucius Fox, and Jean Smart as Helen Ventrix. I see your face there.
Did you say Elizabeth Moss?
Shall I start with this honourable mention right off the bat then, buddy? You ready for this? Yeah. Elizabeth Moss, who plays Kimmy, the young girl in this episode, is also June Osborne in The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah. I know Elizabeth Moss is.
Well, for the listeners who don't know, Peggy Olson in Mad Men, and Cecilia Cass in the Invisible Man movie. So,
oh, shit, yeah, she is.
So she was in an Invisible Man episode of Batman before she did that movie.
That's really fucking cool.
Isn't that cool how that came around? And I have lots of cool facts from my utility belt because I actually reached out to Dan Riba, director of this episode, and he gave me loads of cool things to talk about in the fun facts. But to continue with honourable mentions, besides Elizabeth Moss, we've got Richard Erdman, who plays Elliot, is also Leonard in Community and the pirate in the movie The Page Master. Do you remember The Page Master? I included that. I completely forgot about that movie, and the moment I saw this fact, I was like, I want to own that movie, because I love that as a kid, and it's not available on any platform to buy digitally.
Really? Is it locked up in some sort of...
I don't know, maybe.
Studio political stuff. It's the same with, like, I want to own Day of the Dead, the George A. Romero film. It's my favorite zombie movie of all time. It's just not available anywhere.
Right. That's a bummer. So Richard Erdman, who was the pirate in the movie The Page Master, he passed away in 2019 at the age of 93. So quite a ripe old age and not that long ago. Next up, we've got Danny Goldman, who plays Sam. He's also the medical student in Young Frankenstein, Captain Merhart in MASH, and Brainy Smurf in The Smurfs. He passed away in 2020 at the age of 80. So again, not that long ago.
Not COVID related, was it?
Oh, I'm not sure. It didn't say. But he's the assistant that a Batman originally suspects. And the moment I heard his voice, I was like, where do I know that voice from? Because he's like telling Batman like how the invisibility plastic works. And I was like, he sounds kind of like nerdy. And I thought it was Mandark from Dexter at first, but I was like, no, he's not. No. And then I saw Brainy Smurf, and I'm like, of course, that's such a Brainy Smurf. Like, I'm kind of a know-it-all, and I'm a Brainy Smurf. And he just kind of has this like little... too smart for his own good voice.
That scene was funny to me because he was like, Batman's like, tell me how this works. And he's like, okay, well, you see this plastic here. You see the little fibers. And Batman leans in. He's like, yeah, I see it. and then he explains the whole thing and how it works, how it reflects light and stuff. And then he goes on to be like, oh, but by the way, it's like toxic, so we get rid of it. And then Batman goes, yeah, I know. I read the report on it. And the guy's like, all right, guy. Like, you just asked me to explain how this whole thing works. So you know already. He's like, yeah, I know.
Or he really didn't know, but he didn't want him to know that he didn't know because Batman's always going to be the smartest guy in the room, right? So he's just like, how does it work? And then when he explains it, he's like, yeah, I already knew that.
Maybe Alfred gave it to him like, here you go, sir. This is the report on the Invisible Man and how it all operates. Oh, Alfred, that sounds so fucking boring. Can you give me the cliff notes? He's like, no, you must read it all if you want to catch this villain, Master Bruce. All right, fine. He's like up in bed reading it. He's like, plastic and he falls asleep and he wakes up and he just only gets the last bit where he's like, oh, and it's extremely toxic. Okay, I gotta go, Alfred. I'm late to catching this guy.
We've also got Michael Gross, who plays Lloyd Ventrix, who's the Invisible Man. He's Stephen Keaton in Family Ties. He's the dad in Family Ties, if anybody knows that show. He's Burt Gummer in all of the Tremors movies. So I've never watched those movies, but I know they have a big old following. Yeah. And he also voices Warren McGinnis, who's Terry's dad in Batman Beyond. And he's got bit parts in Curb and Parks and Rec, like one-off episodes.
Who's he in Curb?
I knew you were going to say that. I don't know. He's just some guy. It was like Eric. It was just like some random one-off episode.
Well, who's he in Parks and Rec?
Again, same thing. That's why I say one-off episodes.
What kind of podcast host are you?
It's just bit
You're gonna
parts.
drop me a plum of 2 shows I very much enjoy and not know who he played in them? Is he the doctor when Larry's like running to the when he's trying to get the appointment and it's first come first serve, so that lady's like running past him in the hallway? And the guy's like, I'm really busy, Larry, let me just check this. And he's like, don't pull up my sleeve, and his sleeve gets loose. Oh man.
Would you like me to find out what he is Dr. Rivkin. You're right. He's a doctor.
I think he's the doctor that's like, Larry, I don't have time for this, and he pulls his sleeve up and it ruins like his jumper.
It's the doctor in the smiley face episode.
The smiley face. What season?
Larry vows to topple a sacred dating taboo and regrets making concessions to his new office neighbor. It's season 8, episode 4.
No, it's not the person I'm thinking of.
Okay, and do you want to know Parks and Rec as well?
Yes.
He is in the episode Summer Catalogue. Preparing the summer events catalogue, Leslie decides to take Ron and the past director of the Parks Department. He's one of the old Rons.
Oh yeah, these they get like high in the woods and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's the Invisible Man. There we go. We got there. And also Terry's dad in Batman Beyond.
It took you long enough.
Shut up.
Christ.
Next up is Ken Howard, who plays Harkness. He's also Don Jeffries in Michael Clayton, Arthur Mash in Rambo, and Thomas Jefferson in the movie 1776. He passed away in 2016 at the age of 71. Then we have Brock Peters, who plays Lucius Fox. He's also Admiral Cartwright in Star Trek, Tom Robinson in To Kill a Mockingbird, and Dark Cat in SWAT Cats, which is one of my favorite little guilty pleasure cartoons as a kid. He passed away in 2005 at the age of 78. And finally, we have Jean Smart, who plays Helen Ventrix, Kimmy's mum. She's also Martha Logan on the show 24, Deborah Vance in Hacks, which is a show that me and my girlfriend love, and Floyd Gerhardt in Fargo season 2. You know, the leader of the Gerhards? She's the mum.
Yeah.
That's the voice.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she's the mum in this episode. All right, fun facts out of my utility belt. We'll start off with some Dan Riba facts. I reached out to Dan Riba and asked him, I thought your first episode was the Magician episode. What's her name? Zatanna.
Zendaya. Yeah.
Zatanna. And he's like,
Zatanna? I hardly know her.
He said it was... the reason that we're watching this now, so last episode I said, they made this episode and it was really out of place for the show, so they like aired it way down the line. That's actually not true at all. I found out through chatting with Dan Riba. What happened is this was actually the last episode produced for this season. However, the production order was out of order because one of the episodes was discarded and the script was replaced with this episode. They had to have an episode in its place. Mm-hmm. The original episode, apparently, is, he said, the script that it replaced was sent to Japan originally and hit a snag in production there. As time passed, it was clear that no work was done on it. So when it was decided to switch production, we decided to just start over here. The original script was about a rich woman's staged kidnapping or something like that. Honestly, I don't remember. I did a bit more research and I found the original episode's production number was assigned to an episode titled The Count and the Countess. So obviously it was like some sort of kidnapping with a count and countess story. It was never made in Japan. Bruce Timm sent it out there and he checked in on them a little while later. And the overseas studio took months to produce even a character design and only had a partial storyboard. So they just took the episode back and they were like...
How unprofessional.
Yeah. So they said, let's start from scratch. So this episode was made way further down the line, but in production order, it's here where we are now. In watching in production order because it had to take production order numbers place. And that was the episode.
Well, I thought the animation was great.
And I think it's because they had gone on long enough that they really had found their... Because this episode was the last one produced, but in production order, it's switched around, as I said. So, yeah, it's the same animation studio as on Leather Wings. And it shows.
Okay. Pretty, I mean, like, they over-animate in the beginning... Elizabeth Moss getting the locket over her neck, like her hair is just
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Batman looks really good in this episode as well.
He really did. Yeah,
I liked his horns. They had the shark fin horns. That's the way I draw him, with the shark fins, kind of more in the middle of his head rather than in the back, which this show eventually really leans into.
Yeah.
And yeah, especially, we don't do that segment like That's So Batman anymore. But it's that last shot when he's standing on the roof.
Well, I do. Every episode I say love that Batman. I know you don't listen to the show, but I still do that segment. Yes, I had a lot of shots where I was like, what's my love that Batman moment?
Love that
Batman! So the first one was when he swings into that alleyway with the concrete and zooms in on his bat, and then there's a bat signal shadow on the ground. I was like, that's pretty cool. That's my moment. And then later on, he's just spying on that guy through like the open window or the ceiling window, and I was like, he looks really cool there. And then he's in shadow at the drive-in movie theater, and he like jumps down.
Yeah, he looks great in this episode.
But it is the final scene. You're right. That's I love that Batman. He's just in silhouette. And he looks so cool.
It's the way we all drew Batman as kids. Just like we drew the horns and the eyes, and then just scribbled in black.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I asked Dan a few other questions. I asked him if he enjoyed making this, if it was a struggle, because he had directed quite a few episodes at this point, but this one is the one that he's credited for in production order as first. And he said, I was totally into it. The Invisible Man stuff was cool to figure out. We added some visual gags that made it cool, and the effects were fun to break down and design. The Invisible Man character was loosely based on James Woods, he said.
Oh, okay.
Which I could kind of see. He's got that, like, on the cheeks, how you can have these, like, dimples almost. I think it's, like, scars from, like...
acne scars.
Acne scars, yeah. Which James Woods
I thought he had those dots on his face because his skin was reacting to the poisonous suit.
No, that's just acne scars.
Well, then that is just a wasted plot point because it never goes anywhere. Batman's always like, don't you know that suit's poisonous? He's like, I don't care. And I don't blame him for not caring because apparently it doesn't do shit to you.
Well, no, and he has nothing to lose as well, really, at that point.
But they never, like... every time they mention, like, the suit's poisonous, I'm like, okay, so then that's going to have a payoff. And it just never did.
No, it's true. It doesn't, yeah.
I thought, at one point he's going to stand over Batman like, I have you now, and then go,
and then die.
It's poisonous.
Why did you tell me?
I didn't think it was going to affect me this quickly.
Dan Riba finished with saying, there was tricky stuff to deal with on a network show. We didn't want it to seem like the girl was ever being abused or anything, but it was a custody situation. But he was still a threat, and we wanted to make that known. And I think that's true. I think they do a really good job where it's like, she's not in danger physically in that sense. It's more just like, there's this obsessive, ex-con, ex-husband maniac.
Opening scene is a horror movie scene.
Yeah, so all right, let's talk about this episode. What did you think of this episode?
It was okay.
I really liked this episode, and I realized before sitting down to record, I liked it because it's usually not on my rewatch, right? It's usually not on the list. So I haven't seen this episode in a very, very long time. And
so you're doing the classic, I haven't seen it, so I love it.
Yes, exactly.
I've seen it once and it's the best thing I've ever seen.
So yeah, I think for me, I will say that I enjoyed it more than I expected to, because I didn't think it was going to be this good, and as far as especially the animation was incredible.
But don't you think that it's a bit of an old trope, like the guy in the invisible suit gets paint chucked on him and he walks through puddles and cement, it's been done. And this is from the 90s.
Yeah. And it had already been done. Yeah, I agree. I think it was an easy layup for them. It was something... Well, again, we found out this episode wasn't the original idea, so they must have just been like, what can we copy quickly? But I feel like the tone of this episode was really, great. I felt like it was very...
a good tone.
Like a Rear Window or a Vertigo. Had some Hitchcock feel to it. I thought it had very adult themes that were handled well. Or it was
certainly Hammer feeling because of the Invisible Man, that's for sure.
And it was a bit Stephen King as well, I felt, with just the whole vibe of it and some of the stuff. So I did enjoy the vibe and the animation more than I did the story.
I think it has that vibe because when you think of the episode, it's just a thriller. That's what this episode is.
Yes, it is. It is total thriller. There's lots of interesting shots too, like close up of keys going to locks or getting a sandwich, or you're inside a bin when the mum's putting the rubbish in. You know, like they really went different places with the camera, which I found interesting. What did you think of the music in this episode?
Super, like, I was like, this is an old, like, 50s classic Hollywood movie. Like, that's what the music was.
Yeah, and it had that kind of, like, child's music box jingle as well, too, which I thought was good. Another layer of horror to the whole episode. So, yeah, I think it's way better than I remember, but I don't think, like, oh my god, this is, like, one of my new favorites. I don't think that. But, yeah, it's better than I remember. We actually get people in cars on the streets of Gotham as well. When Lloyd was heading into the jewelers, I was like, oh my god, people actually live in Gotham, because usually the streets are empty in every sequence. So I thought that was really cool. And a wipe transition. Did you see that? I've never seen that in this show. Like, from
when was the wipe transition?
When he goes into the jewelers, they wipe transition to him being in, like, with his suitcase.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I've never seen that before in this show. So, did you notice the security guard trying to open the bathroom door and realizing it was locked?
Guy needed a shit, right?
Yeah, his face is like, stupid. I should never had tacos for lunch. You've got IBS, Carl. What's wrong with you?
I know there's watches and jewelry floating, but I still, everybody has the key for the bathroom. I really need it. Maybe the key's floating around somewhere.
I'm about to produce a floater, if you know what I'm talking about.
It won't be the only thing floating in a minute.
Oh, God. He's sweating so much. And then he goes back, but Bruce has changed into Batman, so it's locked again, and he's like, oh, no, I missed my chance. And he's just sweating. Oh, he's probably crop dusted the entire room. Everyone can smell it. They're just dropping like flies.
Seriously, is there a key for the bathroom?
And then he's pressed up against the wall, and he's like twiddling his thumbs, like holding in his shit, and then Batman bursts out and slams the door into him, and I was like, I'm
about to burst out myself, Batman!
He definitely shit his pants. So we get our first look at the Invisible Man suit. What did you think of the look of the suit in this show?
I didn't think twice about it.
It just looked like plastic wrap.
Well, the guy said, like, we're mysteriously missing some of our plastic. Well, the only person that worked here was an ex-con. And Batman was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Right? He was
ding, ding.
That's my number one suspect then. And the guy's like, whoa, just because he's an ex-con doesn't mean he's him. And he looks at him like, oh, yeah, really? I'm going to go see what this ex-con is doing. He's really petty and sends the guy like a newspaper, like, ex-con, the con is the Invisible Man. And the guy's like, son of a bitch. I just didn't want to assume, Batman. I just didn't want to assume. I think that I like to believe that I live in a better world than I'm actually in. Don't live in Gotham then, bitch.
I thought the jewelry scene was fun, where he was stealing it and it was just kind of disappearing into nothing. I liked the way they animated
but gave away his game immediately, right?
I know, he wasn't... And Bruce was even like, what am I looking at? And then he was like, I gotta go be Batman to deal with this.
He was like, a floating watch, what the hell?
Yeah, what does he say? He's like, he says something so, like, rich upper-class white guy. He's like, what the golly? Or something. It's like something like Adam West would say.
Someone in the background's like, holy smokes.
It'd be funny if it's just like, holy fucking shit! We got ghosts in Gotham! Get the fuck out! We get that great scene as well where a construction worker is just enjoying his sandwich and suddenly Batman just appears in front of him and starts yelling at no one. Like,
did you see the guy? As a fat guy, I looked closely at his sandwich. I was like, what are we working with here? And
you pause it? That's why you were late to recording today? You're like, I looked at that sandwich for 10 minutes.
Me and my wife just get up close to the TV. All right. Then rub our hands together. Let's see what we're working with here. And
guys, your face is pressed against the screen practically. I see a tomato. Yeah, I got a tomato.
No, he had no vegetables in his sandwich at all. It looked like salami and then like 2 or 3 different types of cheeses, unless it was supposed to be like sliced chicken. But I think the dude just had like, I'm going to make a sandwich. What do I got in the fridge? Yeah. I got salami and I got 3 different types of cheeses.
I wish my wife didn't leave me. She made the best sandwiches.
Yeah, I just make shit sandwiches though.
Oh, it was funny. What do you think of the wet cement fight, which I thought sounded like a WWE pay-per-view event name or something like that?
I thought it was the best scene of the... Actually, no, the opening scene I liked because it was creepy, but I thought it was a good scene, but it did have all the tropes in it. I guess the one thing is like he chuck painted him and then he clicked it away, so he was like, not that old trick, buddy.
That's true. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did kind of change it up there and not be too predictable. Alfred is not going to be happy when Bruce comes home covered in dry cement. He's not going to be pleased.
You don't want to see the Batmobile.
What have you done?
I fought an invisible man, Alfred.
And you got into wet cement? How?
I thought he was standing in the cement and I jumped at him and I fell in.
Did you see the signs that said don't go in the cement?
I was busy fighting the superstitious cowardly lot that make up Gotham City, okay? Next time, Bruce, I'm coming with you, sir, and I'm going to oversee it so that when you're about to jump at an invisible man, I can say, watch out for the wet cement, sir!
And it's a good thing your suit is grey and the cement as well, because they mix quite well.
Right.
The Echo sequence made no sense, though. They're in an alleyway, not a cave. He's like, you wouldn't know that I'm right next to you, Batman, man. And I'm like, I thought you were outside. He's like, the tall ceilings. And I'm like, there's no ceilings here, buddy. It's an alleyway.
I think you have a residual effect from my poisonous suit that will never play out.
Yeah. Imagine if the guy is so poisoned by the suit, he's not even visible. He's just like standing there and he's like, you can't see me, Batman. And he's like, yes, I can, you idiot.
You are fully naked guy. You're a naked guy wrapped in saran wrap. Your dick just looks like leftover hot dogs from the day prior. It's like someone just took a hot dog off the grill, put it in a bun, just wrapped it tight in saran wrap.
Give me that hot dog.
Give me that.
Not a very great way to demonstrate to your ex that she doesn't need the restraining order anymore by grabbing her by the wrist and like hounding
by
her.
Restraining her?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I was like,
you don't need that anymore. I'll restrain you myself.
I was like, stop. And again, very adult themes for a cartoon. I was like, wow, I'm surprised they went there. Did you notice the Einstein lookalike at Wayne Tech?
No.
Oh, I knew you wouldn't. I took a picture. I'm so glad I kept it. There, as Bruce is like leaving the office with all his like scientist buddies and stuff, they like do a pan across the laboratory and you see Albert Einstein clear as day. Look at that dude. That's some Einstein.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Glasses, the hair, the mustache, like, and he's in a lab. Like, clearly they're paying some sort of tribute to Einstein there. So this is our first time ever seeing Lucius Fox in this series. Technically, his first aired episode was Feet of Clay, Part 1, but as we're watching production order, this episode was first. So this is the first time we see him. What do you think of Lucius Fox in this show?
I don't remember seeing him at all in this episode.
Well, he's with Bruce. He's very briefly in that room of like scientists with Bruce.
I think I was looking at my casting choice during that scene.
Oh, I see. Okay, so he's the one who's like, well, yeah, we used to work on stuff, but then we got rid of it, and it went over here because the guy died, and then it went to his assistant.
Oh, I completely missed that scene because I was looking at my casting choice, and I even caught myself like, oh shit, I'm not paying attention.
Oh, I see.
That's
okay.
what I missed.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, so that's how Batman ends up finding the lead, the assistant, Brainy Smurf. Because that's what Lucius Fox does.
Yeah, that's exactly when I was looking at. When they got to the scene when he was in the room, that's when I was like, oh, that's my choice.
Okay, so I loved Batman sneaking around the lab when that assistant was working on something. Like at one point, Batman just walks in front of frame and like in and out of frame as the guy's in the background and doesn't even know Batman's there. And I love how Batman's not like running around, like trying to be quiet. He's just casually walking like, I'm so quiet. No one's going to know I'm here. But he did know he was there because he like catches him and pushes him like under a whole bunch of bookshelves or something.
Yes, that's when I started paying attention when Batman got hit by bookshelves.
Oh, okay. Because there's a scene where he's like reading files and he's got like a torch in his mouth, and I was like, this is so like old school detective vibes. I love this. Like the lighting on Batman in this episode. Spectrum does a really good job with lighting Batman in their episodes. So, yeah, you pointed out earlier there was a tension between Sam and Batman with a lot of, like, mm-hms. There's a lot of mm-hms, is there?
I read the report. Okay. Did you, Batman? Tell me, what type of plastic is it made of?
So, once he knows how it works and everything, he, like, sneaks up on the mum as she's, like, taking out the garbage. dude, I was like, Batman, what the fuck are you doing? Like, she's already scared because her ex-husband has come back, and he's just like, I'm looking for your husband. And she's like, Jesus, like, where the fuck did you come from? She's just taking out the trash, and suddenly there's this 6-foot guy in a bat costume just, like, standing in front of her.
I do that to my wife by accident all the time. It's because I have quite a loud voice. Not on purpose, just loud speaking. So she'll be in the kitchen, and I'll just come in, I'll be like, hello! And she's like, ah! And just peas fly everywhere.
Batman also, like, puts his hands on her shoulders at one point, and she, like, turns away very quickly, like she jerks. And I'm like, dude, earlier her ex-husband was, like, doing the same thing. She clearly is, like, she's coming out of some sort of abusive relationship. She doesn't want to be stalked or touched by random men. Like, do your research, Batman! You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? He's like, I need to know where he is. And he's, like, grabbing her shoulders. I'm like, ease up, buddy.
The Invisible Man's wife is a woman.
Oh, brilliant. When Batman picked up that Annie doll, he looks at it with, like, squinty eyes. Like, it's almost like he didn't know what it was.
He's like, no, definitely a knockoff.
Or I was thinking, like, he takes it home to the Batcave to study it, and he says to Alfred, like, a voodoo doll? A bomb? Or some sort of creature from another dimension? It's a toy, sir.
Alfred just comes across in the Batcave just a hidden collection of, like, children's dolls. Like, Brewster of the Day, he's like, I've got a big meeting with Wayne Enterprise, Alfred, I'll be back later. And he's just, like, sitting, like, at the doll store, like, having tea with, like, tea time.
Oh, no! Having tea with them is so creepy. And he's like, what, sir? Everyone has their hobbies. Mine is collecting old Victorian dolls. So Batman suddenly takes a gun out, and Helen's like, what's that? And I was thinking the same thing. Like, you see the tranquilizer, but at first I was like, what? Is that a gun? And Batman's like, this is my piece. This is my gat.
I know, yeah. And she was like, what are you going to do? And I said, like, I'm going to smoke his ass. Right?
He's like, I don't kill people, but if you don't see the person, is he really there? Like,
exactly. I'm just going to spray and pray, baby.
Spray. Oh, yeah. I was like, he's straight up using a gun. It's a great scene when Lloyd reveals himself to Kimberly, and, like, he's like, I'm your father, but it's slightly ruined with the fact that he's just a floating head telling her this. Like, he's just a head, and he's like, I'm your dad, Kimberly. It's just, I was like, this is weird.
That animation, like, he gets, like, hit a couple times, and he's still a floating head.
Yeah.
And then, like, Batman is just, like, it's a very silly, like, him on top of the car and everything. But I do like the joke of the homeless people being like, he can fly now?
That was great. I really do like that as well. And it was fun seeing Batman, like Superman, kind of... Do you think Batman's like, wee! As he's, like, going through the streets? Like, I must look like I'm chasing
it. He's on an invisible car. I'm sure he's bricking it.
I like that sequence. I thought that was cool, the invisible car sequence. Like,
yeah, I like when he just, like, reaches his fist and he just starts punching him. Like, damn it, pull over.
And also, like, that whole sequence first takes place at an abandoned drive-in movie theater, and there even was a showing of the Invisible Man, but, like, there was missing letters in the Invisible Man, which I thought was funny. But I thought that's just another failed and abandoned business in Gotham that a villain, like, will inevitably use as their hideout. But I was wondering, there were all these poles that looked like parking meters all around the drive-in. I was like, what are those? Did you see all of those? It was like a big open space in the drive-in, and there's all these, like, parking meter-looking things. And I was like, what are those? So I looked it up, and back in the 50s, they were speakers, and they were designated parking spots, and they were just a speaker on a pole, because people didn't use the radio waves.
Drive-through?
Yeah, like a drive-in movie theater. That's where they were in that sequence.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of using the radio waves, which they didn't do back in, like, I think it's even earlier than...
Yeah. You connect a speaker into your car so you can listen to the movie.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So that's what all those things were. They were all, like, speakers on poles. I was like, oh, okay.
No, I know that.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. So I thought that was interesting.
I've never been to a drive-in movie before.
Haven't you? Oh, I've been to loads.
I have no interest.
Oh, it's quite fun. But, I mean, I did a lot during COVID when you couldn't go anywhere else. So that was fun. So going back to the episode, I really liked the rooftop sequence. It was really well animated, like Batman saying, peekaboo, when you can see him. I thought that was great, dude, when he got him in the rain. I really liked that delivery from Kevin Conroy. I thought that was so good. Do you like that?
He's a bit cheesy. Like he He has a couple of cheese lines in this. I forgot what he says when he's like, when the guy's talking to his daughter, and he's like, "Not today, bitch," or whatever he says, like on top of the.
Oh, not in this lifetime. That's what he said.
Yeah, not on this lifetime, you dingus.
Well, then,
and then at the end, he says some sort of pun where it's like, "Oh, you're gonna be serving time," or whatever it is.
Yeah, so Batman delivers the line, "Get ready for your biggest disappearing act, Ventrix."
Yeah.
The one where no one sees you for 10 to 20. And the dude is unconscious, so no one can hear this.
Ah, that was a good one. I wish I had notes for it.
Alfred, do you get that?
I heard it. Very good, sir.
He's like, but do you understand the joke? Alfred's like not listening to him anymore. He's just like walking away. He's like, Alfred.
What?
At the end, Kimmy is talking to no one, and the mum is worried that Lloyd is back, so she comes into the room, and then Kimmy tells her it's Batman, so suddenly she's relieved, and she's like, oh, okay, and like closes the window, and then we see that great shot of Batman silhouette of the roof, and he walks away, and that is the end of the episode. Now, I have a big problem with this final scene, for a few reasons. The whole thing starts with Invisible Man in this episode, right? Ended up being her ex-husband. She didn't see Batman, so she doesn't know it's him. It could have easily been her ex who came back and was like, "No, I'm Batman, Kimmy. I'm invisible now. Like I'm wearing the suit." And she could be like, "Okay, Batman."
I just think that she probably should have been a little more cautious about her daughter talking to imaginary friends, considering that her imaginary friend was actually a real person.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's like, "Yeah, sure, there's somebody out there." Like, lady, there is a man dressed as a bat above, like standing on your roof right now. Sure there is, guy.
And what's Batman doing? Because he's spending part of his night on top of a fucking suburban rooftop talking with an 8-year-old.
Checking in on her. Look, as a guy who was affected with childhood trauma, I think he's probably checking in to see how she is.
I guess so, and that's a very good point. But like he did that in I've Got Batman in My Basement. He's just standing outside the house. Remember, you see his leg, and I'm like,
childhood trauma, baby. He's looking out for them. I mean, as we've established in this show, that guy grows up to be a serial killer.
But like, I was thinking, what do they even talk about? He's like, so see any more invisible people? I wouldn't know.
What do you kids like these days? It's 1992. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the second movie, pretty good, right?
I don't know.
They couldn't use Bebop and Rocksteady, which was a shame, but I did like the new editions. So.
I had Alfred DVR it for me. It was pretty great. I mean, not Alfred. I'm not Bruce Wayne. Bye!
Whoopsie.
So our next episode that we're going to review is Beware of the Grey Ghost.
Ah, that's in season 1.
That's in season 1, buddy. That's our next
It's a
episode.
classic.
Yep. So that is the next episode we're going to review, which I'm super excited for. In between our episode reviews, no, I can't pick up the beat on that one. But in between our episode reviews, we're going to have a special guest. As we said, we've had one of the main producers come on the show, and that episode will be coming out next week. So look forward to sharing that, and then we'll go on to review Beware of the Grey Ghost.